I guess it would be good if I put my video camera on too. Hi, this is me.
Hi.
Hello. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining our Halton Youth Initiative Indigenous Knowledge Keeper event today with Val King. I'm Siobhan, the HYI coordinator. Before I turn it over to our youth hosts and Val, I just have a few quick housekeeping items to mention, which are please be sure to keep your microphone on mute throughout the presentation today while Val shares and our hosts ask her some questions. If you do have a question, just type it in the chat and we'll do our best to get to your question. Also, for best viewing of the presentation today, it's recommended that you use speaker view instead of your gallery view if you're using a computer, so that you see just see the presenter a bit better. On your computer, there should be an icon at the top right corner of your screen with viewing options. So thank you very much. And now that these housekeeping items are done, I'm going to turn it over to Zainab, who will open our presentation today with a land acknowledgement. Thanks, Zainab.
Thank you, Siobhan. So Halton, as we know it today, is rich in history and with beauty in all four corners. From the land of the Anishinaabe to the Atwandarin, the Haudenosaunee, and the Métis, these lands surrounding the Great Lakes are steeped in Indigenous history. As we gather today, even as it is online, on these treaty lands, we are in solidarity with our Indigenous neighbors to honor and respect the four directions, lands, waters, plants, animals, and ancestors that walk before us, and all of the wonderful elements of creation that exist. We thank the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation for being stewards of this traditional territory. Thank you, and I'll now hand it over to Afnan to introduce our guest.
Thank you.
Ideb wed ojik da qui, she who speaks the truth woman leader. Mikwa Dodam, Bear Clan, New Credit Dunjiba. English name is Valerie King. She has lived on Mississaugas of the Credit all her life. She has been a scabayas, which is a helper, in the community and off-reserve in various employment and volunteer or grassroots positions. She is a mother to 7 children and a newcomiss to 7 grandchildren. She and her family are carriers of songs and hand drum singers. They also sing around the big drum and dance traditional. For the last 30 years, she strived to bring the sacred bundles of traditional teachings back to the people. Ceremonies and rites of passages such as grandmother moon ceremonies, fastings, traditional teaching workshops, drummings, singing, and feasts. She has been working with the traditional medicines and will be soon opening Dancing Moon Holistic Center, offering traditional programs for healing, herbal products to help people with connection to spirit. She does activism work for families of missing and murdered Aboriginal women and for sacred water. She currently works at Judah's Place as a holistic counselor, working collaboratively with the doctor and herbalist for the people's healings. She is a chartered herbalist, has completed her ECE, Bachelor's Art in Health and Women's Studies, and a minor in Indigenous Studies, and her Master's in Indigenous Social Work.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Afnan, for that. Okay, so welcome again. Welcome, Val. Welcome, everyone. Val, we're so happy that you could join us and be here today with us to share some of your insights and some of your knowledge. We're very, very appreciative of it. And I guess I just want to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself and turn it over to you.
Miigwech for introducing me, and you did really well pronouncing in the Ojibwe language, and I'm really grateful. And I think we can probably just go more into it. Like I've said, everything within the biography, and probably more will come out more as I'm answering the questions. Just talking more about myself, of who I am, and where I come from. So, but I really want to thank you for inviting me to speak to your youth and the network. And I really appreciate that, and other people that are able to come on and listen. I have my daughter here, Jai, helping me with my technology because I suck at it.
I know, so, it's a strange new world, isn't it?
Plus, this is Jai.
Hey, Jai, I messaged you. I love seeing faces.
Oh, you know Jai?
She recommended. We were emailing back and forth. Yeah.
So I'm gonna get her, like, if I even include her in some of the discussion. Okay.
Of course, yeah, for sure. Okay, so we'll just get right into it. So we have a few.
Note
Okay.
about my tobacco. I put it out, and it's sitting here for whatever needs to come through. So that's sitting there. I burnt a little bit in the smudge that I lit, and I'll talk more about that even throughout. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, well, we have a lot of questions to ask you, lots to learn. So I think our first question goes to Simona. Simona,
Yes.
okay.
So the first question we would like to ask is, what is Indigenous healing or medicine, and what does this encompass?
So that's a really hard question to answer. I run a course for university students, and we talk about it for about 13 weeks for 3 hours every time we sit there. And that's the first thing I ask them when I come in there. What do you think Indigenous medicine is, or what do you think Indigenous healing is? And everybody will say what they think it is, but they're learning as we go along. And what I utilize with them is a medicine wheel, because I'm Anishinaabe, and Anishinaabe use the medicine wheel. So it talks about the body, the mind, the spirit, and the emotion. So it encompasses 4 parts of the being. And a lot of organizations or places do not usually include the spirit. Do you agree about that?
Yeah, I do.
Mona?
How about you, Simona?
Yeah, definitely.
So when Indigenous people do anything for healing, it has to include the spirit first and foremost before anything's going to work. So we always have to do that. So that's why I lit the smudge, because I've been on the phone dealing with people doing this. There was a carpenter at my house, and I just went to Tim Hortons. There was an accident in Hagersville. I don't want all of those things in my mind as we're talking. I want to focus on what we're doing right now. So I've smudged. One thing I did is I lit some sage, which is one medicine. Is that your stuff on there? So which is one medicine here. This is one type of sage that I keep in my bundle, if you can see it here. And you just light a piece of it. Okay, you light a piece of it, and it helps the mind, and it smudges over the ears so you can hear well, so you can think well, so you can speak well, and so you can feel well, so your body. And so that I can focus on the center of that wheel, that holistic wheel I was talking about. I can focus in on the middle about what's happening. And that's what happens when people come into Jitta's place and the doctor said they have this or that or whatever. We get them to forget everything what the doctor's saying or this person's saying. We want them to tell us their story. So when they start telling us their story, they're talking about their body and their mind and their spirit and their emotions. So if you can think about even when you're visiting a friend or sitting there talking with a friend, you're sharing back and forth about what's happening with you. And we're like a clean slate looking at what we think, but we're using our sight about what else might be helpful, like medicines or ceremony or a holistic treatment where maybe a couple of people come together and help that person with Reiki, which is a Western term, but we call it energy. And energy, therapeutic touch, reflexology, all of those terms is really talking about the spirit, because when our hands above the person, or we're sitting there talking and we see these images, and those are spiritual things. And that's not really talked about in the doctor's office, or what you see or what you said. It has to be scientific or concrete. But mostly everybody will say, how'd you know that? How'd you know that? Or how'd you know that I'm having trouble with my liver or this or that, or my stomach, or they start crying because they know it's true. So when you asked the question about Indigenous, what was the question about? the question's gone.
Simona, can you re-say the question?
I had it up on here.
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah, the question was, what is indigenous healing?
So that's the best way I can describe it. I might use my tools, which is this. One of these, my fan. It's an eagle fan, where I'm fanning a person and I'm helping lift that off, whatever it is. I might use my drum. So the drum is a vibration of sound and it helps lift that off. So if I start singing, the vibration goes out because we are just energy. We are notes. Our body is like a note. Some people might know chakra points, those chakra points like this. So when it's like if the wheels are off balance, we're going to put them in balance. So that's like one verse of one song, and that's I was going to go into the Makwa song or the bear song. So there's a whole bunch of teachings behind that drum. It's made of animals. It comes from the trees, the rim of the tree or the thing. The story comes from a young girl that passed it upon the land and talks about the drumbeat of creators, and it's resembling creators' heartbeat and ours. So every time our heart beats, creator's heartbeat. Every time we have a thought, it's creator's thought we're living out. And this drum helps us to remember. So it brings us back to who we are and helps raise the vibration or take things away. Or I might have a little eagle feather that I'm using. I might use essential oils to help put on my hands or lift things off for them. I might use my eagle whistle. I might have to use that. So there's a lot of different things. It could be a combination of medicines or a combination of ceremonies, and they have to take their time doing one at a time, and they just feel better and better until it's almost like their spirit is coming back in, like putting a mask on you, and then it's like, there I am. I'm starting to feel better. You can see it, all of those things. Just like if you have a cold or something, you know how you feel, you just want to lay down. But when you feel better, you start moving and visiting and doing other things. You have the energy, so your energy is higher. Is that, you have any more questions on that? As much as I can explain about that? Yeah.
I'd say she answered the question. Hey, Simona?
Okay.
I love
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, that's amazing. I could listen to you, I don't know about you, Simona, but I could listen to you sing and drum all day. And I really love how you were saying how our hearts are connected to Creator. So when our hearts beat, Creator's heart beats too. Thank you. I'm going to turn it over. I think Tyler, you have the next question.
How did you become a knowledge keeper?
Sometimes I have a hard time even that when somebody calls me that or elder, because I don't think I'm old. Because some people have this mindset that a knowledge keeper or an elder is old or has gray hair. I do have gray hair here, but I colored it. But some people just start calling you that because you have, to me, it feels like I have different pieces of information or wisdom that came to me spiritually or through the blood. We talk about the blood. Our blood remembers things because the impact of colonization that impacted us, they took all of this from us. They've seen us as savages. They've seen us as something that they didn't want to be here and they wanted control over us. So they took our drums. You can't dance. No more singing. You can't use your fans. You can't dress up in your regalias. You can't use your medicines. They made all of these policies so that we couldn't do it. So now, over the last 35 years, 40 years, I'm picking up the drum. I'm picking up the medicines. My grandma started after she was in residential school. She started doing those things secretly. People went underground. so that we could keep it. But things are coming through my dreams that I do sometimes. It's like, I don't know what I'm just doing it. And then later I run into people that this person or this person, then I get the other pieces of the puzzle, like, oh, even though I know I understood it, my spirit understood it, it felt good when I was doing it and it helped, then I get the other part of the teachings of why it is significant. So it's been, because I followed my spirit, and a big thing happened 35 years ago or more. When my, like I said, when my spirit came back, I could feel the heartbeat. I could hear boom, 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 boom. And I was trying to go to sleep and I thought, what is that? It wasn't my heartbeat. And I kept getting up, and then where I was, I kept asking the lady, do you hear that? And nobody heard it. So I'd lay back down and I kept hearing that sound. And then finally, the heartbeat was the same as mine, and I heard a whoosh, a water sound. And I was in a program at the time, and I was doing my social service work, and I was lucky to have all these Meday teachers there, which is, Meday means a way of life, the Medewan Lodge people, the highest of 5 people that could be there. And I said, what happened to me? And I told him the story, just like I told you, but my story was longer of how it felt, because I even thought the water was dripping in the sink. And he said, do you know what you just described to me? And I said, what? He said, you just described the creation story. You got realigned to who you are. And that's what happened. I start getting back on my path of who I'm supposed to be and what I'm supposed to be doing. And then everything just started coming in my path. All these more dreams, more powerful dreams. And I just kept doing what I was supposed to do and picking up the bundles and start teaching the community about all these things. And so it just starts snowballing, like one more thing, one more thing, one more thing. And I'm still learning. I'm still learning. So that's why people call me a knowledge keeper, because I'm still learning though. I learn from you even. I learn from my grandson. I learn from my little grandchildren. I learn from creation just by watching. So to me, we all are knowledge holders. I'm just an Askabeas. I'm just one of Creator's helpers, one of Creator's thoughts. Okay.
Anything else? Is that good, Tyler? Good. Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you. And I really like the piece about constantly learning. We talked to our youth volunteers too about, as adults, constantly learning from them as well. So learning never stops. So thanks for sharing that. Okay, Zainab, I think you're the next question.
Yeah. Hi, Valerie. So how can Indigenous healing work in conjunction with Western medicine? And what do you find is the biggest difference between Indigenous healing and Western medicine?
I think it can work just fine. We have people that come into Judas that say, I don't want Western medicine. I just want the herbs, the medicines. I want the ceremonies, whatever way, that modalities, but I don't want no Western. And that's okay. And then we'll have some people come in and say, I don't want no herbs. I just want to be supported that I'm going to do the Western way, and I don't want medicines, and I don't want this, and I don't want that. And that's okay. The trouble, and some even do both together. The Western, they may do all the testing and all of this and do the follow-up and the blood work, but they just want the medicines. It all depends on that person to be respectful of what they want. And then the trouble that happens is because me and my daughter have been on this committee. We started, and it was traditional knowledge holder committee that we were working with McMaster, like people from psychiatry and all these different programs that you can think of in the curriculum, and the midwives and everything, palliative care, psychiatry. We've been working with them for about 3 years about exactly the question you're talking about, because it came up more so after a young girl died in our community, because she chose to come from the hospital from cancer treatments and come home and just take medicines, because that's what her faith told her. That's what she could see spiritually, being told her to go home. And they wanted to take her child away from her, the parents. And we weren't going to allow it. Michaela Salt, her name was. and things start changing in the system. We had all the doctors in a room and everything, and discussions start happening. Now we have this committee. Now we're having a learning healing model just starting at McMaster. So, but there's, and all the training that has happened, they've taken things like what's residential school, what's the 60 scoops, what's colonialism, what's genocide, how does it impact our people? So they're learning about how our thinking and way of life is and how it impacts and how to be. So, and it's been an awesome thing to see and unfold. And but there's still a lot of racism within the system. But it comes, to me, it comes to an individual level if they're willing, because some people are saying, well, I went to school 15 years to become a doctor, and you know, that person didn't even go to school. How come they can be recognized as an Indigenous knowledge holder or a healer? Well, this information, like I said, has been come down from thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years. That's how we survived. For the last 500 years after impact, we lived for thousands of years in a good way. The governance system, the economic, everything, social system. We knew how our systems were all interconnected. So it can work as long as people have that respect and that kindness and that openness and that genuineness, and listen, and really listen. Because one of the things we ask the people when they come in there after about a year at Judah's place, like, what has helped you here? And the main thing was they felt listened and validated and respected. And our people don't feel like that they have that in places because of the inhumane experiences that we've had from colonialism, of all the things that's happening and still happening. Do you have any other questions on that?
No,
I
thank
could go on and
you for
on.
sharing that with us. That was really interesting.
Awesome, thank you. I think next up is Fatima.
Hi, I wanted to ask,
Hi.
how did COVID affect Indigenous communities, and what methods are the Indigenous communities using to prevent or heal COVID-19?
You know what? When COVID first started hit, I was scared. I was scared like everybody else, because I really did not think I would ever see anything like this. I've seen a lot of things, but I never seen like anything like this on a pandemic view. And the healers and that knew it was coming. And they kept saying to me, don't be scared. Don't get scared. Just roll your sleeves up. Roll your sleeves up. Get your medicines out. Take your medicines and help. And then sometimes I text them, I was like, I'm scared. I'm having some anxiety here, like at the beginning. And they would say to me, whose side are you on? I'd say, huh? Whose side are you on? Whose team are you on? And I'd sit and think, and I'd say, I'm an Oscabeas. I'm Creator's helper. Exactly. Get your tea, take your tea, roll your sleeves up, get to work. Okay. And then I was okay, it would calm that. But after a while, when the discussion was happening, I think the world start feeling exactly how Indigenous people have felt all their lives. How COVID makes us feel in a controlled environment and makes us sit still. I think the world can understand how Indigenous people feel all the time. And it's not a good feeling. But we're used to it. We're resilient. We're strong. We know how we're still here. We're still standing. We're still moving. We're still going forward. We're that strong and we're that connected to the earth that we know that we can keep going. We have a prophecy that says when a woman's heart is on the ground, we're done. Well, I see a lot of women leading the way, Indigenous women. I see a lot of women that are getting their PhDs and writing things, and a lot of movers and shakers. But we've done the same thing. We've still quarantined ourselves. Like there was somebody that had found out they had COVID 2 weeks ago. So they asked us through the media like this, through the Facebook, can you please quarantine your family for 2 weeks? People could choose or not to. Most did, but we usually just stay in our little family circle anyway and do what we need to do. except for groceries and things like that. And we still try to do is, and they've been very creative offering things like this, or youth groups, or because we don't have all these things like ice rinks and everything anyway. We had to go off reserve, so we always had creativity. So that's what's happening. And they've been really, really creativity. And for ourselves, my family's always been together every day anyway. My kids, my grandkids, it's no different for us. We like cooking together. We like hanging out. We're a weird family. We can argue about something or have disagreement, but we still can carry on. But I find people are more loving and more kind and more helping. How are you today? They're saying openly, I care about you. You know, I hope you're okay. And this family that just had it 2 weeks, I don't know how much help she had. She had a lot of people dropping food off, toilet paper, whatever you can think of, they were helping her. So that COVID, I think that's the biggest thing that it did, was those things. Okay.
Great.
You have any more questions on that?
Yeah. Any more questions on the COVID topic?
No, thank you.
Great. Okay. This is really good information. Thank you for sharing. I think Angel, we have you up next.
Yeah. Hi. What can we do as non-Indigenous students and youth to get involved?
Non-Indigenous students, you're doing it right now. You're engaging, you set this up, you're talking, you're being the leaders in your community, you're sharing with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever's in your circle, maybe about what you're going to be talking tonight. So you're becoming allies, a better understanding to bring them, those stereotypes down, those walls, those obstacles down. That's what you're doing. And I'm really proud of you. You're amazing. Those are amazing questions, what you're doing. And, you know, would this been possible? Maybe COVID, this is one thing COVID brought. I don't know. So developing more allyship and I think Jai had some things on this. Would we talk about, Jai?
Hold on just a second.
She's gonna come over here. Jai's a mover and shaker. She always has been.
Hey.
Okay.
Just one second. Ani Benabuju, Pugojijam, Ewa Wisconsin, Makwadoro, New Credit Donjaba, meanwhile Six Nations Donjaba, Mississauga, and Dow. So my name is Val Bloom, Purple Flower Woman. I'm from Mississaugas, the Credit First Nation. I am Mississaugic, which means word Mississaugic is it means like many rivers, like lots and rivers. So there's so many that we can't even. It's unfathomable to think about how many there are. And the word Mississauga, it was named after the people from the Mississaugas, the Credit. My father is Ungwahoi Mohawk, and he's from the Six Nations of the Grand River, and he's Wolf Clan. And the reason I say that, and I acknowledge both sides of my family, is because it's important to remember who I am as a person. Back in the 80s, 70s and 80s, there was a previous prime minister, and one of the things that he said was that it was, if the, quote, Indians don't remember their language and they can't speak their language, if they don't remember who they are, then there'll be no more. And one of the things that my mother and my father really instilled in us is to know our culture, learn our language, and know our identity. And what I mean by our identity is our name, our spirit names that were given to us before we came to this realm. And it's important for me to acknowledge both sides of my family, because we are, my mom and my dad are two different nations. They're two different cultures. They're two different languages. And it's important to me to learn those things. And there's another identity that myself and my family and that a lot of First Nations people walk with, because imagine that we have a moccasin on one foot and a running shoe on the other. So we have this duality that we walk in both worlds, in the Canadian society or American society or the world society, right? And as non-Indigenous people, a couple years ago when Canada did Canada 150, one of the things that I talked about and that we talked about as a family when we were going to do these openings for Canada 150 was that my First Nation, my little band or my reserve, we moved almost 180 years ago from Port Credit or Mississauga. Now, if you do the math here, that's about 30 years older than Canada 150. And what you're doing right now is important to becoming a good ally. Being a good ally means creating space, opening up space so that you can learn from Indigenous people or have Indigenous people and their voices be heard. Because on a systemic level, we're not heard. And it's very hard to break through those systems. And it's really about creating safe space for Indigenous people to step forward and speak. And it's also talking to your MPs, writing letters to your local councils, writing letters to the federal government, and pushing for our rights. And one of the things that I want to say is that this week is Treaty Recognition Week across Canada. Treaties were never just for Indigenous people. We're all treaty people. When you become a Canadian citizen or you're born a Canadian citizen, you are inherently a treaty person as well. A treaty is really a contract or an understanding between the Indigenous people and the Crown. And as Canadians or Americans, you become a part of that treaty just as much as we do. And when you see us out there protesting, we're not even protesting, we're trying to protect what little resources that we have. When you see us out there doing those things, we're not doing it for just ourselves. We're doing it so that we have clean water, so that we have clean air, so that we have good land and resources. When you take the time to become an ally, when you take the time to learn about Indigenous people, you have to also do your own research. So Indigenous people, yeah, we do step up and we do a lot of educating. Sometimes it gets very tiring though, because we feel like we're constantly talking about the same thing over and over and over again. And a lot of these resources and a lot of the things that we're talking about, you can find them online. You can Google them. There's many different academic resources that you can find online. I don't know if you guys have access to like the university archives, the academic archives, but there's lots and lots of different places that you can find the academic papers and understandings, even videos, YouTube videos. I think it's the NFB series, National Film Board. You can find all those different kinds of videos on there. So at the end of the day, I think the most important thing about being an ally is creating space and allowing Indigenous voices to be heard. So I think that's probably the best answer that I can say. So
I think that's amazing. Angel, do you have any other questions or?
No, I think that answered it great.
Okay, great. And just to like sort of piggyback on that, so we've been doing a lot around Indigenous truth and reconciliation throughout the summer, right? And a lot of this is like, it's the outreach to Indigenous communities, but it's not just because I'm hearing sometimes like there can be fatigue, right? Like giving all of these resources all of the time to try to raise awareness, but then what is our part in part of that reconciliation piece, right? So we're really like, we talk to our youth volunteers about the importance of building relationships. And that's really the foundational principles of what we do here. We were building relationships in our own community, youth volunteers with adult allies, but also as we reach out to the Indigenous communities, it's like, how do we build those meaningful relationships between you guys? So these are things like we're really interested in knowing too. So it goes just beyond, more than just beyond, okay, well, we're going to pick up a resource and read about it. It's like, okay, well, how do we do that reconciliation work?
That's awesome.
So yeah, I don't know if you guys have any comments on that, but I just wanted to put that out there.
That's great. That's awesome.
Okay, good. So that we're on the right track. Okay, cool. I think our next question goes to Tina.
Yeah. Hello. Firstly, thank you so much for coming today and for sharing your knowledge with us. My question is, what are Indigenous ways of healing to treat mental health?
I shared some of them at the beginning. I shared some of them at the beginning of the different tools that I might use, or different things in my bundle. But the main thing for me when I'm working with people that have mental health issues is that's part of that wheel, right? And I still have to look at all of it. And sometimes they're not believed what they hear, what they feel, what they see. They're just put into this little box, especially if they go to the hospital and things like that. But when I work with them, I listen to their story and I validate the things that they see, because sometimes if they see things, then they're this or that or whatever. So, so respect is the main thing that to help people with mental health, but a lot of herbals. So different teas. So I'm talking about herbals, but I'm talking about teas. So chamomile, if you think of chamomile is a relaxing. You can get it at Tim Hortons even when you go there. Another one would be the corn. Like one of our foods is corn, but the corn husk of a tea is helps the mind stay centered. So if you look at a corn, our corn, not the corn that you eat like corn on the cob. This is our corn, a white corn. The corn has a husk like this. So it's doing the same thing with the mind. It's protecting the mind so it can focus on what it needs to focus instead of this or that or this, because the mind is so open that all this stuff is coming in and it gets overwhelming. Whatever's happening for that person, it gets too much anxiety there. So then this corn husk tea helps them stay more grounded. So that's only like 2 teas. The tea might be made like a big batch of tea and actually use it as a bath. I've gone into hospitals to help women take a bath in this medicine, or they even braid the corn husk and put it here, or it hangs above the bed. Because all of our food, all of our medicines has a story, has a song, has a teaching. It goes right back to the beginning of time. It's not just, okay, that's new, so take that. You know how the medication is like that? Oh, maybe try this one or this one or this one or this one. This one, all of these medicines going back to the beginning of time. So we try to get the people to remember the teachings, to pick their bundles back up about what helped a long time ago. So that love, that respect, and that connection, like the connection to the medicines so that's that whole thing. And then smudging, like I just talked about the smudging a while ago. So even if they get stressed through the night, smudging the house, smudging their space, smudging themselves, and it just calms them down, calms things down, because that medicine is working. You're asking that medicine, saying, what do you want? What do you need from me? So then you're saying to the medicine, I need you to help me. I need you to calm my mind. My body feels shaky. I can't sleep. I'm worried. I'm stressed. I need you to help me. So then the answer to the medicine is helping us by doing that. Then the walks. You can go for walks. Try to be more with nature. So more land-based things. Utilizing things outside. Just by touching, being near the trees, sitting on the earth, things like that. And the ceremonies, I don't know if you know about some of the ceremonies. There's a sweat lodge ceremony where there could be just a conductor and the person and people outside supporting, or there's a few people inside. And it's a ceremony that's going back into the womb. It's a whole bunch of teachings around that. And it's like a renewal. So, and that stuff is whatever, it could be a trauma from mental health, something where they're stuck. So if a sweat could happen, a weepy where there's a lot of people in there and they're all praying for this person and it's in the dark. But even modalities that you call reflexology or Reiki or therapeutic touch or cranial, there's so much words out there, but to me, it's all spiritual energy or touch, spiritual. It all comes from the spirit, it comes from an infinite spiritual world that comes in us through to that person and back out. So we're receiving too, as well as that other person. And some people that experience mental health, they are empaths. They have a lot of abilities too as empaths. So the things that they're saying are they're highly in tune. Because if you take the time to sit and listen to some people that are struggling, they are more in tune of what's happening and pick up. Like right now, there's probably a high rise of mental health because they're more in tune of what people are feeling in the world. Like my one daughter, she struggles because of what trauma happened to her, my oldest one, but she can say things and I believe her. I believe her if she sensed this or sensed that when something happens, because it's always true. It's always true. So like if she wakes up and is stressed, that's she knows what to do now about the medicines or things like that. But she did end up in the hospital and she was on medication, but she said, I want to get out of here because all I'm doing is sleeping and I feel like we're all zombies walking around here. They weren't really helping her. They weren't getting to the core of what was happening. So sometimes there's a group of us that are sitting, talking with her or using our vision of just asking questions to unpeel the layers to help heal that and change it to a positive thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does that sound good? Okay, and I think we have one final question from Zara before maybe we can open up the floor to any other questions that people might have. So Zara,
Okay.
go ahead.
Hi, so my question is, what are some of your current projects or what are some of the things that you're working on?
One thing I'm working on right now is I did a traditional parenting program. Like, you know how, I don't know if you know, but when a child is apprehended, Indigenous, maybe non-Indigenous too, I don't know, they require all these things, anger management, child parenting, all these things, but it's usually Western mainstream. And they keep doing it over and over, but it's not working. So one of the things I did last year is I worked with this group and I did a parenting group, traditional parenting group, the way I would do it based on our teachings. So I did it in a circle. I used the eagle feather. I used the drum. I talked about traditional ways that we would parent, disciplining. I used the blanket. I used a welcoming ceremony, all of those things. So now I'm doing one again, but they're coming to video me Friday and they're going to use it with a group. And then I'm going to talk like this with them for about an hour after they view the video of me. So that's one thing. And that's one way we'd have to do it virtually. I like to be in a group one-on-one so I can see faces and energy and all that kind of stuff. But I just have to do it this way. So that's one thing. I'm working with Andrew, his name, and he's working with the school boards. And he wants me to work with administration and do cross-cultural training about different ways of working with students or how to relate to the culture and all of these kind of things. I've been trying to work on my building for my holistic center the last 3 years. I got the walls and I got the insulation and I have the ceiling in. I got my stuff in there. I'm just getting the walls for the ceiling now. I got the hydro in. It's taken me 3 years. But, you know, I'm making my medicines and all of that. I'm so excited, but in my one room that I made, I've been doing the counseling in there. I'm starting to do again. So that's one project that came 20 years ago from a dream. So it's almost there. Me and my grandson made the walkway this summer. I'm working with Polytech, Six Nations Polytech. They're revising their Ojibwe curriculum, which is exciting. It's an adult program. So I'm looking at it to revise it to see what needs to be done. I'm just finishing up and working with NEPAM students. That's Niagara Peninsula Aboriginal Management Board. It's for students that can't go to high school or need alternative learning, because a lot of our students don't go or don't finish high school because we are hands-on learners, hands-on. So this program is all culture, all of it. So I've been going in for 4 weeks now doing the creation story. Remember I talked about the heartbeat and the drum? All day I talked about the creation story and how our breath, how the heartbeat and how it's all connected and why we're connected to the land and what we're saying in the language, why our blood means Mother Earth, all these things. And then the next week I talked about 7 fires prophecies. The next week I talked about the 7 grandfathers, the 7 stages of life. And then this week I talked about energy. And it's so exciting to work with students because it's like, yeah, whatever. But I get them all involved, and I was able to go into their 7 of them. And they are so phenomenal. Like they just received it and they were just answering left and right and very involved. And I did like hands-on stuff with them, like with the Play-Doh, and they were doing art while I was talking sometimes, or energy work. They were awesome. And they said they never learned like things like that before. And I might do counseling, one-on-one with counseling. And I do tea leaf reading. I love doing tea leaf reading. And I start doing, since COVID, I start doing virtual tea leaf reading. And my God, it still works. It still works. It's like, I was shocked like that. Like, oh my God, I can still do it. I can still do it virtually because that energy still, I trust in it and that person trusts in it. And it's usually bang on yet. Bang on. And then I haven't really been a lot at Judah's place with Dr. Hill and Dr. Or the herbalist. Dr. Hill's gone up to Moosonee. She's been up there a lot. She's changed her practice, and Elva wants to keep it closed because of COVID. So I've been like almost like forced to do more stuff at my place, Dancing Moon. I also have my grandkids like every day. And I'm around my kids every day, so they keep me busy. And I have my grandson, and he's doing virtual learning, and that's a chore and a half. But because our internet is terrible. I'm at my daughter's house right now because our internet's so bad. And so he was behind, but he's got his internet stick now, so he's happy and everything. So he's getting caught up. So I do a lot, and I cook too. I like cooking and canning. So that's one thing they said, get back to your canning, get back to your gardening, because my grandma and my great grandma did all of that. So that's what I'm trying to do. Yeah. I can't think of anything else I'm doing.
That's a lot. You're super ambitious. That's awesome. I love the gardening piece, like just getting back to the land and gardening and all that stuff. Yeah. Does that answer your question, Laura?
Thank you.
Great. This is exciting. So we have a few more minutes left, and I know that we've had some listeners, people listening in who've listened, but I'd like to take a moment to open the floor to see if there's any other questions that anybody might have for Val, just as you've listened in today. I'm just wondering if you can use the blue hand, raise hand feature in the participants window. If you have, it should be like a blue hand if you click on participants menu bar, and then I think you should see a raise hand feature. So everyone see that?
I don't have that, Siobhan, so
Okay,
I'm just going to go ahead because I do have to jump off the call. Val, I'm Angela Belgard, and I work with our Kids Network. I'm the Indigenous lead, and I've been tasked the past year to come up with a framework to help answer our Kids Network protocol partners answer the calls to action. So I just wanted to say how pleased I am that you could join the Halton Youth Initiative group and share your wisdom with us. It's fantastic. My colleague Vivian is on the line as well, and I'm glad that she's here so we get to meet you and learn from you. And thank you just again so much for sharing your knowledge. This is a tough month for me personally. I'm wearing my beaded poppy here because we're coming up to Indigenous or National Aboriginal Veterans Day, and it's my grandfather was a World War II vet, so it's very.
My dad too.
Yeah, so I'm just looking and, oh, look at, you have the feather. Yours is wonderful. Mine are imported from Saskatchewan. I couldn't find any here.
John's going to do a beaded workshop online next week. That's what she's getting us ready.
Okay, well, I'm there. I got my bead basket over here if I can reach it.
Oh my goodness, that's nice birch backs.
Yeah, but right now it's just filled of things that I wish I could do. Can't do. So I have to jump off. My mom is, I have to go make sure that my mom is fed. She's stranded here from Saskatoon, so I'm looking after Kokum. But again, I hope that maybe you and our paths cross sometime soon. And thank you so much for sharing all of this knowledge and sharing your gifts with us. I really, really appreciate meeting you and your daughter. So with that, ciao, ciao, and big witch. Hi.
Angela, thanks for coming on.
Bye.
Okay, great. We still have a few minutes left. Anybody else have maybe some questions? Anything, comments for Val while we still have her on the line? And you know what? You don't have to do the raise hand feature. You can just jump right in if it's too technical. She's answered all of our questions. Wow, you're good, Val.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, Valerie, you like touched on this quite a few times while you were talking, but what does like smudge mean? Like you use that a lot.
Jack, can you get that smudge?
Good question.
So you use a container of some sort. Some use a wooden bowl, some use a shell. So this is my smudge bowl here, one of them. And then I have a clay one or a small one. And then I take medicines like this. One of the medicines. So this one is sage. This one here is sage comes from the west direction on that medicine wheel. This is sweetgrass. Weengush. So this is Mother Earth's hair. And it's braided. So body, mind, spirit. Remember I said body, mind, spirit, emotions. So when this is burnt, it's still smudging over the eyes, the mind, the ears, the mouth, the throat, the heart, and the body. So, and it's just lit. So tobacco is another medicine. And I sprinkled that over top of that a while ago. So then I would light it. And then the other medicine on that medicine wheel in the south is cedar. So I have some cedar in here. I thought I did anyway. So this is a little bit of dried cedar. Say, this is cedar here. This is another protection medicine that we use, but that we also drink this for colds. It's high in vitamin C. So then I would take some of this and I would just burn it. You can hear the cedar sound of it. And just smudge will come up. So this is smudging. And people can do it like quite a few times during the day or going through the house. It can go through the house if, or it could be this medicine or different medicines that you're going through the house. And then sometimes through the night, if it's a heavy stuff that you're dreaming about, you'd open the door and let it go through, let it go through the house. So that's what I can say about the smudging part. Does that be helpful?
Yes.
Okay. That was one gift that they gave out to our community for a wellness day, was that everybody got a smudge kit. So you drove up and you got your little bag and you had your smudge bowl and a little bag of medicines that you got to keep, like for your mental health. So, yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you for showing us too.
One more thing that I was thinking about is me and my girls made our second CD also during COVID. because the Jacasa studio was open on Six Nations. So we were ready to get that recorded so fast that it only took us 3 hours to record 10 songs. So that's ready to come out, and my daughters drew the artwork. So we're at that point now to do that too. That's exciting about that, yeah.
Wow, awesome.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome. Any other questions before we close off today? And just jump right in if you don't. Okay. I'm just going through the list. Okay. All right. Well, before I hand it off to Tina for the closing, I just want to say a personal thank you. I'm so grateful, Val, that you and Jai came on and shared this knowledge with us, showed us some things that are just really interesting. Now I have even like more questions to ask, actually. So I'm hoping the conversation will continue. So we'll be in touch. But yeah, I really am grateful, and just sharing with our youth. I can only talk for myself, but I'm hoping for our youth as well that this has been a really beneficial experience, and also gets us to really want to learn more, want to reach out more, and like I was saying, build those relationships even more. So thank you again, Miigwech. I'm going.
Just one more thing.
Go ahead.
When you say that, like to reach out more and build relationships more, but I think it's what key is that it builds. It's like a mirror, and it builds inside the relationship to yourself more. It builds you as a person more.
I think that's a really great point, right? Because it's relationship with self, what we build, how we heal inside, and then that helps us to give to others as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I don't want to take the last word, so I'm going to turn it over to Tina for the closing.
Thank you. Yeah, so I just wanted to say thank you so much to you and Jai for taking the time out of your days to come in and speak about Indigenous ways of healing. I think I can speak for everybody when I say that we all learned a lot today and really enjoyed what you shared. Your activism work and your expertise are really inspiring, and it was great to hear from you today.
Awesome.
Yeah, and with that concludes our Indigenous Medicines event. Everybody, thank you so much for coming, and we hope you had a great time.
Miigwech. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Val. Thank you, Jai. Thank you, Jody, Sherry, Vivian, everybody. Thanks you. Thank you to our youth hosts. Good job. You did a good job.
Good job. Great questions. Great questions.
Awesome. So you can leave the meeting now, unless you want to stay on and chat. That's okay too.
Much peace.
Okay. Peace.
Thank you so much for such an insightful session. I really appreciate it.
Bye.
Take care of yourselves.
You too. Bye, everyone. Awesome work, guys. Yay.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Good night.